Hey everyone, so today we're going to talk about something that totally flipped the script on what it means to be smart. I'm talking about emotional intelligence. And no, it has nothing to do with your IQ. It's all about how we handle ourselves and each other. All right, let's just jump right in with a big question, one that kind of challenges everything we've been taught. You know how we're always told to keep emotions out of it, to be logical? Well, what if that's completely backwards? What if our emotions aren't the enemy of intelligence, but actually a core part of it? This whole idea really exploded onto the scene back in 1995. A guy named Daniel Goleman published a book, Emotional Intelligence, and wow, it was a total game changer. Suddenly, everyone started talking less about just IQ and more about this other kind of smarts, a much more human way of looking at what we're capable of. Okay, so to really get what Goleman is talking about, we have to start at the beginning. And that beginning, it's all about looking inside, the journey inward. Because think about it, how can you possibly understand other people if you don't even understand yourself first? So the first building block, the absolute foundation of all this, is self-awareness. And this is way more than just saying, oh, I feel angry. It's about digging a little deeper. Why do I feel angry? And how is that anger making me act right now? Goleman says without this piece, forget it. The rest of the structure just won't stand. All right, once you're aware of what you're feeling, what's next? Self-regulation. And let's be clear, this is not about bottling up your emotions. Not at all. It's about creating a little bit of space, that tiny pause between a feeling and your reaction. You feel a flash of anger, you pause, and then you decide what to do. That little moment, that's everything. That's where real emotional control happens. Okay, so we've done the internal work, we're aware, we're regulating. Now it's time to take all that understanding and turn it outwards. This is where the rubber meets the road, you know? It's how we actually use this stuff in our relationships and interactions with other people. And Goleman breaks this outward journey down into three big skills. You've got motivation, empathy, and social skills. These are basically the tools we use to connect our inner world to the world outside. Let's start with motivation. Now, we're not just talking about chasing a bigger paycheck or a fancy title. This is a different kind of motivation. It comes from deep inside, from your own sense of purpose. It's the thing that keeps you going when you hit a wall, the thing that fuels your resilience and keeps you optimistic. Next up is empathy. And this, right here, is what Goleman says is the real heart of emotional intelligence. It's so easy to confuse this with sympathy, just feeling bad for someone. But empathy is different. It's about trying to feel with them. It's about seeing the world through their eyes, understanding their feelings without judging them. This is how you build real trust and connection. And finally, all of this culminates in what we call social skills. This is basically emotional intelligence in action. It's the practical stuff, how you handle relationships, how you get your point across, how you influence people in a good way. It's less about being the boss and more about being a collaborator, creating harmony instead of just giving orders. All right, so we've got the 5 key ingredients. But so what? Why is this idea still so huge decades later? Well, let's get into the really cool part. Why having high emotional intelligence is basically a superpower. And that leads us to the million-dollar question, right? We can talk about how this stuff feels important, but does it actually do anything? Can you measure it? How much does EI really, truly matter for being successful? Well, Goleman's research looked at exactly that. They compared leaders who were just fine, average, with the ones who were absolutely knocking it out of the park. And the difference in their effectiveness wasn't just a little bit, it was huge. So what explains that massive gap? This is the jaw dropper. Goleman's research found that almost 90%, let that sink in, 90% of the difference between average and star performers was because of emotional intelligence. Not their IQ, not their technical skills, EI. That is just, wow. And look, this isn't just about being a CEO. The benefits of high EI show up everywhere. We're talking about better mental health, more success in whatever career you choose, and yeah, deeper, more satisfying relationships with the people you care about. It's really about living a better, more fulfilling life, full stop. Which brings us to the big takeaway here, the whole point of this entire idea. It's not about your heart versus your head. It's not a competition. It's about partnership. Goleman himself put it perfectly. He said, in a very real sense, we have two minds, one that thinks and one that feels. And the whole idea is that they're supposed to work together. Real intelligence, real wisdom, that's what happens when your thinking mind and your feeling mind are in sync, working as a team. So at the end of the day, emotional intelligence is really just a reminder that being human is our greatest strength. When we get a handle on our own emotions and respect the emotions in other people, we just become better at everything. We're more effective, more connected, and honestly, just kinder people. Now, this is obviously just a quick look at a huge topic, so if you want to go deeper, the full source article from Emotion that we used for this explainer is linked for you right below. I definitely recommend checking it out.